My guest today is Mr. Chris James. He is well known for his achievement as a national award-winning spoken word poet laureate. But like so many creative people, he is more than that. Chris is a playwright, educator, photographer, author, producer, TED Talk speaker, and survivor. As a young black man fathering a child at 16, he has walked the walk of hopelessness and homelessness, and now talks the talk of empowerment as he pays his experience and knowledge forward through a variety of artistic mediums. In 2016, he was featured on the front cover of Arkansas Times newspaper for being one of Arkansas's top visionaries. Chris is an entrepreneur. He founded the House of Art, Arkansas's only poetry venue. He is a member of the Foreign Tongues Poetry Slam team, who ranked second place in the world in 2014, and he is a K through 12 artist teacher conducting across the country workshops that educate on racial barriers and socioeconomic challenges and how to overcome it. And on his side hustle, he's passionate about mental health awareness. It is a pleasure to welcome to the table what his friends say about him: the man, the myth, the educator, the impactful Mr. Chris James.
Yeah.
You can tell I've been all over your website.
Yeah, you have. I appreciate that. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was like the best introduction I've ever had in life.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So the name of your website is called The Chris James Journey.
Mm-hmm.
thechrisjamesjourney.com, which is a really apt name for your website and is really the core of everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just start with this journey today. Let's start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your family.
Man, I grew up with my mother, my two brothers, and that was it. You know, family now. I'm the father of 5 beautiful children. My twin daughters are right over there in the next studio looking at us. Yeah, you know.
But mother told you
Mm-hmm.
when you were young that most black men by the age of 25 will be either dead or in jail.
Oh yeah, America taught me that. You know, the world taught me that. You know, and I seen that. You know, all my life. You know, I'm still seeing that. You know, just being an educator. You know, and just being a community activist. You know, I'm seeing that truth. You know, and it's a reality. You know, a lot of young people, you know, black boys and girls are, you know, either dying physically way before the age of 25 or dying mentally and emotionally, becoming parents at 13, 14, 15, or dealing with traumatizing situations that ruin their lives mentally and emotionally. So yeah, you know, and that's one of the main reasons I do what I do today, because I realize that so many people who come from where I come from are dealing with a level of mental illness because of the form of poverty we come from. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So.
Your third grade teacher asked you.
You've been listening to you.
I loved it.
Come on, Kerry.
Come on. Your
Yeah.
third grade teacher asked you what?
What I wanted to be when I was alive, and my response. My third grade teacher asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and my response was alive, because by that time I had seen more black boys die than I was able to digest. You've been listening to my poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's a real response. I mean, I don't think you could ask I don't think if you asked my kids what they want to be when they grew up in the third grade, if you asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up, I don't think they would have said alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reality.
Yeah.
So there is fatherless children,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the socioeconomic problems you speak about.
Yeah.
Incarceration.
Yeah.
Homicide.
Yeah.
Black on black homicide
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. The dropout rate in school, and then the teen pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot. Those are the issues that are in your poetry.
Yeah.
So how do you talk about that how do you speak about that without making people defensive?
Well, I don't think people will get defensive about me speaking about it because everything I speak about, I've lived. You know, again, I was 16 when I became a dad. You know, I was 16 when both of my brothers went to prison for 25 and 40 years. You know, I was fatherless and still fatherless, you know, at age 30. You know, so everything I'm speaking about, I've experienced. And I think being that I have experienced it, it allows young people. So when I go into that alternative school with kids who are only there because their probation officers told them they had to be, or kids who are angry or currently dealing with their level of trauma, they're able to receive me a lot differently than they probably would receive you, you know, because I've experienced it. So they're more willing to hear me tell them that it's possible to overcome what they're experiencing. And I talk about it because I think it's important. It's important to identify your struggles so you can then create solutions to overcome. Because if you don't see that stand in your neighborhood and selling drugs or breaking in houses and having babies over and over and over and over by different men and blase. Like if you don't identify that that's a problem in your community, you're going to continue to live in that cycle of problems. So through my poetry, through my art, through my stage plays, through my books, I'm letting you know that this right here is harming us as a people, as a community. And so I don't think it's a challenge at all, or it's people become defensive. I think people become aware and they become enlightened when I shed light on it.
So here is your quote, and I love this. This is my favorite quote you said that I read of all the interviews you did. Art is important because it conveys people's struggles and triumphs and solidifies my belief that we are more alike than we are different.
That's true. That's true.
We are more alike than we're different.
Mm-hmm.
I see it every day. I love that. So how do you find artists for your shows? You went to New York and met some. Is it all just networking?
Well, it's a lot of networking. You meet artists who know other artists. And my goal is, I probably have about 55 to 60 artists that I've worked with over the lifetime of the gallery. And my goal is to work with artists who are passionate about what they do. They have a signature technique. You know their work without looking at them. We recognize it. And, teaching people how to invest in themselves and generational wealth, you got to have all levels of art. So that's why I have, emerging, mid-career, and master artists so that you can move in all circles and educate yourself.
So,
all of that.
Would you say something? What was the first one? Something mid, and then
emerging.
Emerging. So that's the affordable ones.
Well, I would say all of them can be affordable because we have that famous. We call it installment plan. Some people call it layaway.
Oh, I see.
You can do whatever you want if you want a piece of art. Mm-hmm. When you go buy a car, do you go buy a car and say, I'll just take that one and write a check for $30,000 or $40,000?
I wish I did.
You go in there.
I wish I could.
With an idea that you're going to pay on it, right? But the thing about art as opposed to a car, when you get that piece of art on your wall at home, it's going to be worth more than that car.
Yeah, it is.
So I say Uber, ride the bus, buy art.
It's just the enjoyment of having art in your home. I did not become interested in art. I didn't know why people liked it. Couldn't tell a print from anything else till I probably got to be in my late 30s. Mm-hmm. And somewhere around there, and I had lots of artist friends, somewhere around there, I ended up buying a piece of art inexpensively from somebody and hung it up. Mm-hmm. And it's like an addiction.
Right.
It's weird.
Right.
All of a sudden, you're looking at it all the time.
You're paying attention to it. And then you want another piece. And you want another piece.
One, and you go on these buying binges.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
Yeah, I did that down in New Orleans in the French Quarters.
Yeah.
All the local painters and artists down there. Yeah, I bought a bunch of stuff for the studio.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of
You just kind of
Yeah.
and then you get home and you're like, oh, but then
I did
you
it.
love it.
Yeah,
did
and I
it.
want more and more now.
and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client come in. It was a Friday afternoon, and she said, "I'm having an art attack." And I said, "What?" She said, "I'm having an art attack. I just want to buy some art." And I was like, "Let me help you." And she ended up taking home about 4 or 5 pieces. And so that Monday, I called her up and I was like, "Are you okay? Because you can bring it back. You don't have to keep
Oh,
them."
you're
Because
so
the thing about
sweet.
it is, while I love impulsive buyers, I want the experience of owning art to be so exciting that it feels good.
No buyer's regret.
No buyer's regret. So, but she kept them all. I was like, oh my gosh, that was just an amazing day for me.
So you started off with regional artists, local artists, but you're
and
now
then we
national.
moved regional, national. We have some international artists that we work with. So, we've grown. Luckily, there's not a lot of competition for African American fine arts. So artists talk to other artists. And, Arkansas is a state with a lot of rich and powerful people who collect art. So why not come to Arkansas and give it a try?
And so let's start with what I think is the hardest question first, and then we'll lighten up. Something people don't like to talk about is racism, and it goes both ways. I mean, buying the Taborian Hall, I found out the hard way. I'm the white girl that bought a significantly important African-American building, and I almost want to say that it kind of hurts my feelings.
I wouldn't worry about that. You're doing the right thing. Were it not for you, Kerry, that building would not be there.
See, that's what I want someone to tell me. Thank you, John. You and I are both interviewed in the Dreamland documentary that's airing on PBS. And I see you every week at this radio station. So we have become friends and sometimes talk and sometimes rant about black and white relations in America today. Our discussions often end with you saying, "We can't forget our history lest we repeat it." And me saying, "White people want to quit feeling guilty about what our ancestors did and move on." Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can. Racism is a many-layered thing. It begins with tribalism, which becomes eventually classism. That whole thing of dividing people up. So people want certain things. Once I really got the definition down of what this is, instead of hating, I just decided to embrace everything. The things that I don't like, I just get away from it. I'm looking for the positive.
You really are.
So rather than be fighting with people about my rights, I'm just going to do what I think is the right thing. So I can embrace it all and make a decision that way, not have popular opinion change my way of living. When I say that, I mean, that's why I want to stay close to nature. So when you see me walking down the street, I'm not actually looking for a ride. I'm actually assimilating nature.
So don't offer him a ride if you see him.
Don't offer me a ride. I'm going to get where I'm going.
And live forever.
On a snow day, I might walk 3 miles to get here when other people can't or won't come. So I'm driven by nature. Really, most people think I'm just being casual about it, but I'm not. I prefer cooking my own organic foods the way I want to eat it.
Man, he is an 80-year-old millennial. After the 60s and 70s revolution, I think many people thought equality for all at last. I know I felt that way. I know LBJ thought that when he tried to create what he called a great society. LBJ's quote is as follows: "A great society is to build a great society, a place where the meaning of man's life matches the marvels of man's labor." You are exactly an example of that because you work hard and you've had a wonderful life. But shortly after LBJ passed, the 1965 Voting Rights Act became the era of riots and destructions of property by African Americans on their own business districts and neighborhoods. You were a young man living during that time. It was a little before my time. Can you tell us how you felt and give us your theory on what happened?
I was scared about it happening in my town. When you're removed from things, Detroit on fire. It wasn't as serious, but although I'm getting friends returning home because they lost their jobs, they lost things. They made a reverse migration.
Oh.
See, the migration of blacks to the large cities went on for about 70 years.
How many years?
70.
Yeah.
And so when LBJ implemented that policy and stuff, and people didn't get what they wanted, that's when the large cities went on fire.
What did they not get that they wanted? I don't know. I have no idea.
The program wasn't implemented immediately. Yeah, they made the legislation happen, but it was 10 years after before a lot of that stuff was actually implemented in the neighborhoods that they were in places where they needed to help people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For instance, in 1962, I saw Grambling College football team on TV. That was a major breakthrough. That marching band.
Is that an African American school?
Grambling College.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. In 1962, in 1975, I was calling football for Grambling College on the radio.
Oh my gosh, I am going to rewrite your bio.
So I did that about 5 years. The thing I'm trying to show you is, yeah, he implemented legislation, but it took a while. And so people like me waiting to see this happen, it never happened. I was still doing the same things I wanted to do, just striking out on my own.
Were you frustrated?
Yeah.
But you didn't want to burn your city down.
I didn't want to. I never burned city. Never burned. Never do anything. I did anything that took me on crazy, frustrated marches. Now, when Acorn came into being in 1970, I was one of the few people outside of the usual block of on-air people that talked about their programs and stuff. They couldn't get any help. The local news, TV news, call them that local group. They wouldn't identify them as, oh, this is an organization out here.
And I don't think a lot of people know Acorn. The A originally stood for Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it became a nationwide program.
Nationwide program.
Started by the same guy that started this radio show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So to be doing that was, I guess, what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to be out there, out in the street burning buildings. I went on a few marches in Birmingham.
But Acorn wasn't just about black people. It was just about poor people.
Poor people,
yeah.
Marginalized people, losing their housing.
Which I guess probably was mostly African Americans, probably.
A good part of them. Look at what happened to 9th Street.
Yeah.
And it impacted, and then they moved a lot of the people out to the suburbs. That's where they usually wind up, but.
Yeah, when I moved down there to 9th Street, I learned from, you probably know him, Milton Crenshaw.
Yeah.
He was the first gentleman to come see me, and he was adorable. He had an M and an H on his two front teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And he took me down and showed me where his building was and where his wife and him had lived and all of that. And he said he lost his business when his customers started shopping on Main Street. He said, I lost all my customers. So after desegregation, I learned from being down there that the African Americans began to shop on Main Street. The white people decided to do white flight and moved out to the suburbs because the African Americans were shopping on the Main Street. And then the poor black business district just lost all its customers.
Lost all its customers.
And folded all across America.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that that's what happened to most of these African American black business districts.
I think that was a
or African American
pushback.
business.
Yeah, I think that was a pushback from LBJ's.
Well, I think they were just shopping price.
Well, that too.
I mean, look what Walmart's done to small towns.
Yeah.
I mean, you come in with a good price. I mean, this mom and pop cannot compete with Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the African American stores could compete with the white stores.
They couldn't. No.
On price.
But let me show you a thing that went on here.
Mm-hmm.
When you met Milton, yeah, he was there, frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
When I come back on the Mosaic Templars Preservation Project, he was one of the first people I went to because I used to patronize his business. That's why I took my clothes every week. It was a weekend thing. Take your clothes down there, get them clean, get your shoes shined. So I tell Milton, I'm going to organize this effort to save this building here. He's right across the street from there. And ask him if he would help. he was so frustrated. He said, "I don't have time."
Why?
He saw the vision, all his business partners being pushed off the street, so he moved to 15th and Ringo. I still took my clothes to him and stuff like that, but I never could get him to join the society.
Committed.
He would not join. I think he was burned out by that time by so many asks from different people and things like that. And you know, he was a great teacher. He taught not just showing people how to fly airplanes, but he taught at Philander Smith College. So he went through that thing, and it just devastated him. He didn't want to do any more business. He didn't want to.
Oh,
Now, I wound
Milton
up
Crenshaw I'm mixing my guys up. Milton Crenshaw is the airplane pilot.
He's the airplane guy.
So the guy with the M and the H that came to see me was Milton somebody else. I think I have mixed my two people up. Yes, I got to know both of them really well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So Milton was a good person. As a matter of fact, I sit on a board that we formed for his foundation, this Air Academy thing that Terrence Bolin put together until he died recently. So
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.